Coming up on today's show, GM's car-sharing service Maven welcomes the Chevrolet Bolt EV to its Los Angeles fleet. The latest Tesla update now lets you see real-time supercharger status. Every single Toyota Mirai fuel cell sedan in the world is recalled for a software issue that could produce an overvoltage problem with the car's electrical system. Plug-in car sales in Norway have topped 37% market share for the very first time. Hyundai announces a $29,500 headline price for its 2017 Ioniq EV. Renowned Tesla hacker Jason Hughes makes his rear-wheel drive Tesla 30% more powerful. Proterra's CEO predicts 1/3 of all new buses will be electric in just 4 years' time. Daimler announces that the Smart will become an all-electric brand in the US by next year. We ask if Waymo's recent brain drain was caused by overpaying its staff. A Kia exec says that the South Korean automaker is working on an all-electric version of its Niro crossover to hit the markets in 2018. Mercedes-Benz starts small series production for its urban e-truck, and a Chevrolet Bolt EV owner manages 300 miles on a single charge, 70 miles more than official EPA estimates. All of this and absolutely no politics this week, next on 10. Like all our content, today's show is funded by the in-stream ads on today's video and by the kind donations of viewers like you. Follow the link at the end of today's video to make a monthly donation to our Patreon campaign to keep us independent and reasonably impartial. And if you're already donating, thanks for your continued support. It's Friday, February 17th, 2017. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield, and this is TEN, the Green Car YouTube show that should be 10 minutes long, but there's just too much news to cram in, and you already tell me I talk too fast. To start today's show, we're off to Los Angeles, California, where General Motors has introduced more than 100 Chevrolet Bolt EV electric cars to its established Maven car-sharing fleet. Since GM launched Maven City car sharing in Los Angeles back in October last year, there's been an average 56% growth in members month over month, meaning that demand for existing vehicles has soared in response. And since Maven supplies vehicles for Lyft's Express Drive program, where Lyft drivers can rent GM vehicles by the week so they can in turn offer Lyft services, the inclusion of more than the 100 Bolt EVs in the vehicle pool should mean that around 250,000 all-electric miles will be covered by its Maven fleet per month, based on current usage data. And to incentivize people to pick a Bolt EV over one of the other Maven vehicles, GM has teamed up with EVgo to offer free charging, at least initially, on the EVgo Freedom Station networks throughout California. Nice! With a Tesla Model 3 electric car expected to dramatically increase Tesla's electric vehicle market share, the California company is doing everything it can to make sure its supercharger network is ready for the increased numbers of people trying to make use of those super-fast DC quick charging stations. And so we heard last week that, as promised by Tesla some time ago, the company has now switched on the live status update feature of Model S and Model X version 8.0 software updates that was pushed to customers' cars back in January. Now, as well as route planning your journey to the nearest free superchargers, Tesla's new software will tell customers via an on-screen update information about just how congested their choice supercharger is, displaying the information in both graphic and text forms. In other words, if that supercharger you're heading to is kind of busy, you'll at least have a choice to replan your route in many areas. As for combating stall wait times, well, we also heard this week that Tesla has quietly started putting temporary additional supercharger stalls at certain locations where demand is going through the roof, just to help ease congestion. But the advice is clear. Use your car's onboard system to plan those routes, and if you see a supercharger getting full, consider charging elsewhere. It doesn't matter how careful an automaker is in its pre-launch testing or how large the vehicle production run is, there are always some problems with the vehicle that necessitate a recall, either for hardware issues or, more commonly these days, software issues. And that's exactly what all 2,840 Toyota Mirai hydrogen fuel cell sedans around the world are being recalled for this week, after it became apparent that a software issue with one of the fuel cell stack systems could result in it producing a higher than designed output voltage that could exceed total system voltage. Like most recalls, it's a rare case scenario not seen during testing, but should an overvoltage error occur, affected cars will turn their systems off and display an on-screen error. So, to fix it, Toyota is pushing a software update to fuel cell systems of each Mirai, a process that it says will take about an hour to complete at a local Mirai-approved dealership. Luckily, there are so few cars involved because Toyota has sold so few, so expect this recall to go without a hitch. For the past decade or more, the Scandinavian country of Norway has sat atop the global electric vehicle mass adoption charts, thanks to its generous incentive programs, incredible perks for electric car drivers, and forward-thinking attitude to clean power. The result? Plug-in sales have accounted for a sizable proportion of new car sales for months now, totaling an impressive 28.8% of all new cars sold last year in the country. But last month, electric car sales went above 1/3 of all new cars sold for the first time, accounting for an impressive 37% of all new cars. Just think about that for a second. 37%, or to put it another way, just 13% away from being the majority of all new cars sold in the country. And with Norway hoping to have all new cars zero emission by 2020, I think it's really possible that Norway will not only become the first zero emission car country, but reach that target on time. People, this is why I've been doing what I've been doing for the past decade. It gives me warm fuzzies inside. From Norway now to the US, where South Korean automaker Hyundai has announced the entry-level price for its 2017 Ioniq EV. Starting at $29,500 before incentives, or dealer and handling fees, the 124-mile electric car is super competitively priced and manages to outprice a whole bunch of other competitors, including the Nissan Leaf, BMW i3, Ford Focus EV, and Volkswagen e-Golf, to name a few. But perhaps what's most interesting is that it's only about $8,000 cheaper than the Chevy Bolt EV, a car whose battery pack is just over twice the capacity of the Ioniq EV's battery pack and manages another 110 miles or so per charge. So the question is this: if you had to choose one of them, which would you pick and why? Assuming you could, of course, pocket the difference. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Spend any time in the world of Tesla electric cars and you'll come across a guy called Jason Hughes. Not only is Hughes one of the foremost owner experts of the Model S and Model X, having taken his apart several times, but he's also a super smart engineer who's reverse engineered a whole heap of Tesla things over the years, including installing autopilot hardware in his wife's pre-autopilot Model S P85. And if that's not enough, the 31-year-old day trader is also running his home from an upcycled Tesla battery pack that he's rebuilt into his very own off-grid battery system. Well, last week he hit the news again after completing a series of updates to his yellow Model S that, thanks to some hardware tricks, gave his Model S 30% more power at the rear wheels than it had when it left the factory. The result? A Tesla Model S, which he now calls the P90++, that can make 553 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque at the rear wheels. Impressive! I can't wait to see what his next project, which is a DIY conversion with Tesla parts, is going to do. Watch this space. We've already spent some time this week talking about how electric cars are gaining market share around the world, but now it's time to talk about how electric buses are gaining market share around the world, courtesy of Proterra CEO Ryan Popple. Talking to Green Tech Media last week, Popple predicted that in just 4 years' time, 1/3 of new fleet bus purchases around the world will be electric. By 2025, 1/2 of all new sales to transit agencies will be electric buses, and by 2030, every single new bus in the world will be electric. Admittedly, he happens to be the boss of one of the largest electric bus manufacturers in the world, but with blistering evolution in the electric vehicle battery design and rapid charging technology, it's entirely conceivable that he's right, at least in the US. And with very few weeks not going by now when we don't hear about some new electric bus purchase or other somewhere in the world, we're inclined to agree, as the costs associated with electric buses are far lower than they once were. And the fuel savings alone, even for a small city, could be 6 figures or more. And that's saving worth investing a lot in, don't you think? When it was first designed way back in the 1980s, the diminutive smart car, originally envisaged as the Swatchmobile, was meant to accommodate a hybrid drivetrain. But with no car companies taking the design seriously, it wasn't until the mid-90s that the smart car, now a joint project between Daimler and Swatch, was truly born as a petrol 2-seat runabout. But as of the end of this year, Daimler has announced that the smart brand will become 100% electric in the US, with only electric versions of the Smart Fortwo sold from that point onwards. It may not be the hybrid design of the original car, but it's one better, and as it's got no tailpipe at all. And you've got to love how this has all come round full circle. As to the rest of the world, well, you're going to get petrol, diesel, or electric for the foreseeable future, but going all electric is now certainly a possibility for the brand. You might not have noticed, but in recent months, we've seen a fairly constant stream of engineers depart Waymo's autonomous vehicle program for pastures new, either joining rival autonomous vehicle companies, automakers, or setting up their own software houses specializing in autonomous vehicle things. The reason? Well, it seems that when it was setting up its autonomous drive program, Waymo's parent company Alphabet offered such incredible salaries and massive lump sum bonuses for those who stuck around that engineers no longer needed to stay at work for the salary. In other words, it paid its employees so much that they could then afford to go somewhere else and not worry about a stable paycheck, like a startup. And with every automaker and many hardware and software companies looking to get into the autonomous drive programs, it's meant that Alphabet's hiring strategies have kickstarted a massive autonomous driving revolution around the world. The question is this: was it intentional or not? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. It may only have just debuted as Kia's first hybrid crossover, but the all-new 2017 Kia Niro will apparently gain an all-electric sibling sometime next year. That's according to Michael Cole, Chief Operating Officer of Kia Motors Europe, who told Dutch news outlet Autorij that a Kia Niro EV SUV will come to market very soon as a 2018 model year car. Apparently, it will use a 28 kilowatt-hour battery pack and 88 kilowatt electric motor found in the Hyundai Ioniq, although range has yet to be confirmed. This is, of course, alongside a plug-in hybrid Niro, which is due to hit the market sometime this year, hinting that, like its sibling company Hyundai, Kia seems to be betting on a future where it will offer all of its vehicles with a choice of hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or electric drivetrain, as well as perhaps a hydrogen fuel cell variant, if the price is right, of course. At the tail end of last year, Daimler's trucking arm announced the Urban e-Truck, an all-electric truck that it planned to bring to market with an 18-ton and 25-ton configuration. Primarily designed for deliveries in large cities, the e-Truck was previewed with a triple battery pack configuration, totaling 212 kilowatt hours of capacity that, fully laden, should be good for more than 125 miles of range per charge. Well, now following initial test programs, Daimler has begun limited series production of the vehicle and is offering select fleet operators in Germany the chance to become early adopters of its zero-emission urban delivery vehicle. Those initial customers will be chosen carefully, however, and production figures will likely remain under triple digits until the final large-scale production vehicle is released sometime by 2020. And finally, when it went on sale at the end of last year, the 2017 Chevrolet Bolt EV became the most affordable long-range car that you can buy today, thanks to its 236 miles of EPA-approved range and 60 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. But as anyone who knows about EPA figures can tell you, that figure is just a guide. It's possible to fail to meet that figure by driving harshly, or, if you're super careful, possible to beat that figure by a really long way. How far? Well, as Glenn Williams from California proved last week, with some really light-footed driving, it's possible to get that 60 kilowatt-hour Bolt EV to drive more than 300 miles on a single charge and still have a decent number of miles to spare. Well done to Glenn, and I guess the challenge now has been set. How long before we see 350 miles? Let us know in the comments below. Well, that's it, and you're going to have to wait until next week for more Transport Evolved news. But before I go, I have a little correction from last week's show to make on our story about the Lucid Air. Last week, I incorrectly noted that the Air launched at CES, when in fact, it debuted a little before that in December. Also, Edna, Lucid's development vehicle, is based on a Metris, not a Sprinter, and the price point, I've been reliably informed, will start at around $100,000 before incentives at launch, dropping to about $65,000 for future models. The 160 grand figure I'd seen? Apparently that's a common misconception, so thanks to Lucid for reaching out and sorry for the confusion. Now, it really is the end of the show, so don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. Check us out on Twitter at Transport Evolved or head to our site at transportevolved.com for more green car goodness. And as always, if you liked what you saw today and want to help us make more shows like this, please consider making a donation to our Patreon crowdfunding campaign, a link for which is in the description and at the end of today's show. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you next week. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield. That was 10. Have a great weekend, and until next time, keep evolving.